So you want to start down a path of researching your lodge history or maybe your Masonic family history. How do you get started? Well, let's ask a historian. Welcome to the Scottish Rite Freemasonry channel. I'm Maynard Edwards, 33rd degree, along with historian Chris Ruli, 32nd degree KCCH. And he has a new book out all about Freemasons and the White House, and you can check it out at the link above. And the question is, we have encouraged people to research their personal Masonic history, their lodge history. The guys at Huguenot Lodge in New York, I've talked about them on the channel before. They've got a YouTube channel where they're sort of researching things in real time, and they're starting with the first-hand sources in their lodge minute books. But then they have to go in a different direction and look in other resources. And I've had a lot of folks ask me about, hey, what do we do next once we've looked into our own minutes? Where do we go next? And I thought you would be the great person to ask about that. So I asked Chris to come up with a list of 5 great research sources that you can use to get into your lodge or maybe even your family Masonic history. So where do you begin on something like this?
So for my book and for general research, I usually start, if it's Masonic related or Grand Lodge related, so the George Washington National Masonic Memorial has a great archive of proceedings, of Grand Lodge proceedings. Mark Tabbert has done a little bit of the work for us by digitizing a lot of those. So the memorial has all these dozens and dozens of copies on copies, and so they took one of each of the Grand Lodge proceedings for every state and basically tore them up, digitized them, scanned them, OCR'd them, and they're a great resource.
So OCR them means that's optical character recognition.
That's right.
That means that
keyword search.
You can search through those. So you
Correct.
don't have to just start at January 1, 0000 and start reading.
Exactly.
You can jump to where you might need to go.
And one of the great things about when I was working on my book was I just typed in White House and it would pull up every single reference to that keyword across all proceedings that they have available.
Great. And we've got that information on screen.
Yes.
And in the
We'll
description
include
below.
Links to all 5.
And that's number 1. Okay, so number 2. What's
number 2, the Internet Archive, the Internet Database.
Oh, that's a great.
It's a great resource.
It really is. And it's mostly free.
Yes, most of the stuff that we're looking for PDFs are free. So a lot of old Masonic books are out of copyright, which means that universities, organizations, people just in general will scan them, digitize them, form them in a PDF, and then upload them in the Internet Archive. And that is a great resource for these types of research.
There's books, recent books are up there. Lodge of the Double-Headed Eagle. You've
got Mackey's Lexicon of Freemasonry. You've got a lot of all the encyclopedias. So if you're doing general research, standardized research, consider going to resources like the Internet Archive to pull that information.
And not only does it have PDFs and things like that, but we use a lot on this channel. A lot of times you'll see B-roll or you'll see photos and of for instance, when we were talking about the George Washington Masonic Memorial, or we were talking about the building of the House of the Temple, the Internet Database Archive has those photos in there. So if you're looking to do a presentation on something for your lodge and you need an old picture of your town, there's a better than fair chance you're going to find something in that section. So definitely, that's a great one.
Speaking of photos of your old town, Library of Congress and the National Archives is number 3. It was extremely helpful for me because it's basically a free source that you can access pictures of your town, Masonic information. They've got books, stuff that you might even find in the Internet Archives. So that is another great resource of finding American Masonic related periodicals and research online.
Let's talk about one that I know is my favorite and you've mentioned briefly in the past, Newspaperscom.
Newspaperscom is one of the best resources if you're doing Masonic research because it basically collects thousands of old and current newspapers all in one place. You could keyword search. You could search by date. You could search by city. You can search by time. You can even narrow your search and look across a different topic. So if you want to type in Masonry and the White House, which I used, for example, for my book, it will scan every single newspaper, and there's a lot of international newspapers as well that's being collected. It's a great resource.
The reason I like that for folks who are doing local research is that you can usually find your local newspaper on there, and even if your town newspaper has folded, they will have the archives of it on there. That's right.
One of the things that I really like about it is if you find something that you're interested in, you can actually clip it, you can take a sort of a copy of it, and then then it will catalog and organize all of your clippings if you create an account on newspapers.com. So for example, when I was working on my White House book, I clipped about 5,000 clippings. This is not sponsored content.
No, not at all.
Although if they want to give us,
if they want to call us, we'll take it.
Listen, I think if you're doing Masonic research about your hometown or about a major event, and if you are not using newspapers.com, I think you're missing out on a really good resource.
100%. So that was number 4. What is number 5?
So the number 5 is a little bit more academic.
Okay.
It's called JStore. It's an academic humanities research database. And this is where, the American, or actually it's an international database, but where research journals are digitized and published online. So if you are an academic, you're reaching out, if you were in the university, for example, you were back in college and you were doing some research, you most likely used JStore if you were in the humanities and the social sciences to get access to articles. There are hundreds, and I mean hundreds, or perhaps thousands, in fact, articles on Freemasonry from an academic perspective that are on JStore. You can purchase a subscription to access all these. It's sort of like newspapers.com for academic papers. And of course, there's other, academic resources, but JStore to me is, one of the best. It's in fact probably the best out there in terms of its scope, its search. You can look across, the history of publications. It's a really great resource. Yes, you have to pay for it. But if you have a university library, so if you have a university email address, you may be able to bypass that if you still have like an alumni email.
.edu.
Exactly. If you have a .edu or an alumni email, JStore may have a partnership with your university, and so you'll be able to get it for free. So I get it for free, for example. I don't pay for it because I still have my alumni email address that I use. So it's a really great resource.
So those are 5 great resources.
Absolutely.
Quick question before we let you go.
Sure. Yes.
When you're contacting a Grand Lodge to perhaps come in and do first-person research in their actual archives, things that aren't digitized, how do you suggest people go about that? So start with a call to the Grand Secretary or the librarian. How do you say, hey, I want to come look through the files for research?
Right. Some Grand Lodges may not have a librarian, historian, someone who works full-time. So my suggestion is reach out to the Grand Secretary, call the Grand Lodge office if you don't want to send an email, and then figure out who basically manages the library or the museum. And then work with that individual. Often you have to find a time in which they would meet because most of the times they don't.
Yeah, they're not there
They're not 9 to 5.
Right.
And so you'd arrange a time for them to meet. And then what I recommend is if you have the ability, so like Iowa, for example, Iowa, Massachusetts, New York, some of the big libraries often have their stuff on databases. Check the database first. Find out if the book's there. Give them the call number. Have that information available, and then reach out to the librarian and say, "Hey, I'm looking for XYZ book. Would you mind telling me if you have it, or if we can get access to it?" And that will help the process. I don't recommend just walking in because
there's a chance nobody's there.
There's obviously a chance there's nobody there, but sometimes they just need help pulling things for you, and then their job is to help you make it a lot easier. So please help them by giving them a little bit of advance notice.
In your experience, are most Grand Lodges pretty easy to work with when it comes to this kind of research?
Yeah, it is. It's just you got to give them a heads up. I mean, everyone's this is sort of just in general. Please be courteous and engage with people beforehand, but they are very much so. And in fact, sometimes if you get lucky and if they have the opportunity, sometimes you can engage with them online. They may scan a picture or two for you rather than having to travel to Iowa. We live in Washington D.C., so heading over to Iowa means I have to really get. That's right.
But the other thing is that if you are in D.C. or in the Mid-Atlantic area, the House of the Temple Library is open Monday through Thursday during business hours. You can come in and do research and check things out.
Yes.
But if there's something specific you're looking for, who should they reach out to here?
First, there's an online database. So please check the catalog first to make sure. Please, always check the catalogs of your libraries first to make sure that you have these documents. Sometimes, even when I call Larissa, who's the House of the Temple librarian, I'll assume that
she's
they
right
have
over
it.
there, by the way. She's hiding.
Stacking. That's right. Yes. And she that was her rattling. So I would often think, surely Larissa has the proceedings from 1824 of some Grand Lodge, and she'll come back to me and say, actually, we don't have that. You'd have to reach out to, Iowa or New York or Massachusetts. And I keep using these, names and states because they tend to have the best Masonic resources. So one of the funny things, that whole joke about in IT where it's like, have you tried restarting your computer?
Right.
4 out of the 5 times, Larissa, when I reach out to Larissa, she says, have you tried Iowa or New York or, have you tried the big Masonic libraries first? Because then they may have it before. We may not have it, but they certainly might have it.
And I will tell you, having gone and visited our friends up at the Livingston Library in New York,
that's right.
Fantastic.
Yes, absolutely.
That Grand Lodge is a bucket list trip for sure. And Brother Michael, Brother Alex up there, they've turned it into a gem. So if you're traveling about or you're planning on visiting, New York just as a tourist to see a show or something, make an appointment to go visit with them because it's outstanding. And also, if you're in the Mid-Atlantic, obviously, and you want to come to Washington, D.C., the House of the Temple Library has always been open to the public. Since Albert Pike lived in the old House of the Temple, it was open to the public, and it remains so today. Just behind us on the other side of the door, there are students in there just researching because the library is a good place to come and sit and work, and it's open for that reason. So, and
they do tours of the library, so that's why we're filming very quickly because there's about to be a tour running right behind us.
Chris Ruli, historian and author. I'm Maynard Edwards. Thank you guys for watching. If you've got questions, comments, ideas, the email address is below, and we will catch you next time right here in the Scottish Rite Freemasonry channel.